I wanted to tell you about a decision I made which potentially cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And here it is. I decided to put the brakes on all of my investments because I ended up reading one particular book. That book was The Money Bubble by James Turk and John Rapido. So I read this around 2013, 14, 15, somewhere around there, and I made a big boo-boo, huge mistake, and I'm going to tell you all about it in this video. Hi, my name is Opie. I talk about health, wealth, and happiness. So this is about wealth and the mistakes I've made, and potentially could have cost me, or it did cost me, a whole bunch of money. So this book's the premise of this book is all about the fact that during the GFC, the crash didn't crash because the government intervened, right? We didn't feel the full wrath of what it could have been because the government came in and bailed a whole bunch of institutions and even people out. Therefore, the hurt wasn't there. And the prediction was it's going to get much worse. The real crash was coming. Therefore, make sure you invest in gold and silver and farmland. I ended up taking this advice to heart, and I ended up putting a stop on all of my investments. So in terms of super, I converted everything to cash. I stopped buying property, and I ended up walking to the Melbourne Mint during my lunchtime and buying a whole bunch of silver bars, right? So it's funny in hindsight, and I've still got that silver, and they have gone up in value, but it was probably still the wrong decisions to put brakes on the other investments. In fact, my good friend Mario gave me a call, found out what was happening, who is a financial planner, by the way, and said, Opie, you're an idiot. And at the time, I didn't have the insights to know I was wrong. And I'm like, Mars, it'll be fine. I was wrong. And that was probably the last big mistake that I made. And I don't know, something happened, something switched, and thankfully all the decisions that I made since then in terms of the the key areas that I like to focus on have been great. Thank goodness for that. I don't know, something must have happened, but I started looking at all decisions from a strategic lens, and I guess I wasn't looking at it from one angle. So as an example, this particular book was, to put simply, doom and gloom books. In addition to this, I was listening to guys like Harry Dent, Peter Schiff, and a whole bunch of others. So I was basically in this echo chamber of doom and gloom. It's going to crash. Oh no. I wasn't listening to the other side where it's like, oh my God, it's an amazing time to buy. Even if you can't buy this asset class, buy that asset class. So that's another strategy, right? If you think that particular asset class is not good to invest in, that's fine. There are other asset classes that you can go to. Okay, if you don't want to be in real estate at one point or another, there's obviously mutual funds, shares, real estate, CDs, and a whole bunch of others. If you're a real estate investor and you don't want to buy in a particular area, such as, look, I'm in Melbourne, Gold Coast is a good option. Brisbane, Perth, and I'm not saying they are good options. I'm saying they're potential for you to investigate to see if there are good options. So diversifying from a geographic perspective could be a thought, right? But the idea is listen to a whole bunch of people and then try and synthesize that information to make sense of it. But don't make the assumption that something's going to happen because you don't know what the likes of like the government will do. So the pandemic was a great example of, we thought, everything is going to crash, and it did crash for a very short period of time, and it just bounced straight back up. And I remember because I bought some shares during that time. It was Tesla and oil tanker shares, and I flipped it 6 months later. But I ended up making money because the dip was such a short period of time. So be mindful, and you're trying to get information from different areas instead of being stuck in the echo chamber. And this could be with a whole bunch of other areas as well, such as, your relationships, your health, and obviously this section is about wealth. I hope you got something out of this. If you are wanting to sort of, get into the property market, say, I made several videos about that. Check that out. I'll link it at the end of this one if you wanted to get buy into your first property. I also interviewed my mortgage broker, Jeremy. So if you wanted to have a chat with, listen to that video, you can as well, but that's on a different channel. But I'll leave the links in the show notes. Thank you so much. I do want to emphasize one point. I'm not giving personal advice here. This is just general advice based on my experiences. So if you do need to speak to a professional about getting guidance, do so. There's a bunch of good people out there. But yeah, I'm just a guy on YouTube just trying to share my knowledge as best as I can. All right, all the best. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.